South China Morning Post, 8 March 2023, the Philippines announces a plan to draw attention to unlawful Chinese behavior in the South China Sea. A Philippine official said on Wednesday that the Philippine Coast Guard had started a campaign to draw attention to China's aggressive actions in the disputed South China Sea, which has countered Chinese propaganda and prompted international condemnation that has placed Beijing in the limelight. The Coast Guard in Manila has increased patrols in the disputed waters and made extra efforts to record and publicize assertive Chinese behavior in the strategic waterway, including a February 6 incident in which a Chinese Coast Guard ship fired a military-grade laser at a Philippine patrol boat off a disputed reef, briefly blinding some of the crew members. The Coast Guard expressed displeasure and publicly recorded the incident, which alarmed the Philippines, the U.S., and other Western nations. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. summoned China's ambassador to Manila in response to the long-running territorial disputes in the South China Sea. He later declared that the Philippine military had shifted its emphasis from combating Muslim and communist insurgents and other internal threats to external defense. The best way to deal with Chinese gray zone activities in the West Philippine Sea, according to Coast Guard Commodore J. Terriala, is to expose them. He referred to China's use of ostensibly civilian fishing and research vessels to carry out military operations to deter a military response from rival claimant states. Terriala referred to the South China Sea section near the country's western shore by its Filipino name. He discussed China's gray zone activities in the disputed sea at a forum in Manila. By acting as a spokesperson against Chinese aggression, the Philippine Coast Guard allows like-minded states to voice condemnation and reproach, which places Beijing in the spotlight, he claimed. Chinese actions in the shadows are now checked, which also compelled them to come out in the open or to lie openly. According to Terriala, Beijing, including its ambassador to Manila, was prompted by Manila's outrage over the laser-pointing incident to clarify its stance when questioned about the incident at news conferences. The Philippine patrol boat entered Chinese-occupied Filipino territory, according to Chinese authorities. To monitor the Philippine boat's movement, the Chinese Coast Guard used a harmless blinding laser in a professional and restrained manner. We can once again reshape public opinion to evaluate things honestly based on facts and not just propaganda, Terriala said, by making unedited Coast Guard recordings and photos of such Chinese actions available to the public. In response to the incident, the U.S. State Department stated that China's dangerous operational behavior directly threatens regional peace and security and undermines the rules-based international order. It reaffirmed a warning that if the treaty ally Philippines forces, aircraft, or ships were attacked in the South China Sea, it would protect them. However, he cautioned that the Philippine government would face pressure from China to stop making so much trouble, stop releasing things. Raymond Powell, a retired colonel from the U.S. Air Force who has studied China's strategies, praised the Philippine Coast Guard's efforts to raise awareness of China's actions in the South China Sea. China conflicts with other parties like the Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia because it asserts almost total control over the South China Sea. Despite the former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte and his successor, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., who toured Beijing and met President Xi Jinping in January, making friendly overtures to Beijing, tensions have continued, strengthening the military partnership between the Philippines and the U.S.